My uncle said he'd help with my taxes. I thought he was doing me a favor. A month later, the IRS froze my account. He'd used my identity for a fraud ring. When I confronted him, he looked me dead in the eye and said, "You should have known better than to trust family." I lost my job, my savings. But when I hired a private investigator and they pulled one bank statement, I don't even know where to start. I'm still trying to wrap my head around how fast everything fell apart. 1 month I was living comfortably with steady work, a growing savings account, and a plan to buy my first home. The next I was broke, unemployed, and being investigated by the IRS for fraud. And it all started because I trusted my uncle. I grew up in Allentown, Pennsylvania, raised by a single mom. She worked nights at a nursing home and did everything she could to make ends meet. My Uncle Rick was around a lot back then. My mom's younger brother. Everyone in the family kind of treated him like the screw-up, but he was charming in that way people like that usually are. He always had a story, always a new hustle. I used to think he was cool. Mom used to warn me, "Rick's not evil, but don't ever let him hold your wallet." I should have listened. I'm 32 now. I work in medical billing. It's not exciting, but it pays the bills. I've been doing some freelance billing on the side for small clinics, trying to build a little cushion so I could finally stop renting. Was getting close, too. I'd saved up about $42,000. I was planning to put that toward a small townhouse in Emmaus. Then tax season hit. I bumped into Rick at a Wawa off Union Boulevard in March. I hadn't seen him in maybe a year. He looked older, worn down, like life had been hitting him with a brick lately. But he smiled when he saw me, gave me a big hug, and started asking about my life. We got coffee and sat in his car for a bit. I mentioned I was headed home to do taxes. Told him I hated it and always felt like I was doing something wrong. He perked up. "You know I used to work for a tax prep office in Jersey, right?" I didn't know that, but I didn't question it. "I still got the software. You want me to take a look? Save you some money?" I hesitated. Something in my gut didn't feel right. But he'd helped my mom when we were struggling. I remembered him bringing groceries to our apartment when I was 12, even helping her pay the electric bill once. I figured I owed him at least a little trust. So I brought him back to my apartment. He sat down at my kitchen table with his old, beat-up laptop and a USB drive. Asked for my W-2s, 1099s, and some info about my freelance work. I gave it to him. We drank coffee. He made a few jokes, tapped away at the keyboard like he knew exactly what he was doing. Said he filed everything electronically using his old credentials. Told me I'd get a nice refund, maybe $1,300 or so. I thanked him. He took the last slice of pizza and left. I waited. Week passed. Then 2. Then 3. No refund. I logged into my IRS account to check the status. It was locked. Not like a password issue. It straight up said my account was under review. Then the letters started. First was a notice from the IRS. Discrepancy in filings. It mentioned multiple returns under my name. Then came another listing unreported business income. Claimed I owned several LLCs that hadn't paid taxes in 3 years. Then came the bomb, a levy notice. They'd frozen my checking and savings accounts. Almost $42,000 gone overnight. I thought it had to be a mistake. Maybe Rick hit a wrong button or something. Maybe someone else had hacked me. Then my job called. My employer got wind of the IRS situation. HR told me I was being placed on unpaid administrative leave while they assessed the liability risk. That was their exact phrase. Like I was a broken ladder. By Friday, I couldn't pay my rent. I tried calling Rick. No answer. Tried again. Nothing. I drove to the old house he rented in Easton. It looked empty. Windows dark. No car. Dead silence. I checked Facebook. His account was deactivated. I even called one of his old friends I remembered from when I was a teenager. He hadn't seen Rick in months. Then one day, 2 weeks later, I'm sitting in my car outside a Dunkin' and I see a familiar beat-up blue Ford Ranger pull into the lot. It was him. He got out, grabbed a vape pen from his cup holder, and walked toward the vape shop like nothing was wrong. I got out of my car, walked right up to him, and blocked his path. "Rick," I said. My voice cracked. "We need to talk. Right now." He smiled like he was surprised to see me. "Hey, kiddo. How's it going?" I stared him down. "You used my info. The IRS froze my account. They're saying I own companies I've never heard of. I lost my job. My savings. What the hell did you do? His face dropped, but not like guilt. Like calculation. He paused, looked me in the eye and said, "You should have known better than to trust family." Then he brushed past me and walked into the store. I stood there in the parking lot, staring at the glass door. My hands were shaking. I wasn't sure if it was rage or fear or just pure confusion. I didn't go in. I didn't scream. I didn't call the cops. I went back to my car, sat there for an hour. Then I pulled out my phone and searched for private investigators near me. I found someone, Janelle Torres, based out of Reading, former detective. Her reviews were brutal in a good way. People said she got results no one else could. I called. She picked up. I explained what happened. She didn't sugarcoat anything. If he used your identity to set up businesses and file false taxes, there'll be a trail. But it'll be buried. You ready to dig? I was. The next morning we met at a Panera. I gave her everything, bank records, emails, anything I had. She asked for full banking statements going back 6 months. She pulled them up on her laptop. Within 15 minutes she found it. A wire transfer. $6,500. Sent from my checking account to a company called Keymark Holdings LLC. Dated March 22nd, the day after Rick helped me with my taxes. I never sent it. She checked the LLC registry. Keymark Holdings was registered in Delaware. But the business agent was someone named Richard A. Freeling, my uncle. And it wasn't the only one. She found 7 other LLCs under my name, registered in different states, all within 10 days of each other. All had my name on the paperwork. All had Rick's email or mailing address listed somewhere in the filings. It was a full-blown fraud ring. He used my name, my SSN, my address, my employment history, everything, to run some kind of scam operation involving false business expenses, bogus tax returns, and shell companies. And that was just the beginning. Janelle didn't waste time. She printed every document, cross-referenced addresses, ran background checks on all 8 LLCs. What she found made my stomach turn. My name wasn't the only one Rick used. There were 5 others. All cousins. All people I grew up with. One of them, Darren, had died 3 years ago from a car wreck. Rick had used his identity too. She looked me in the eye and said, "This isn't just some uncle playing games. He's been doing this a long time. He's careful, but not careful enough." I asked her what we could do. She said we had to prove intent, not just identity theft. That meant finding out where the money went. That's when she pulled one more thread. Keymark Holdings had a bank account at a small credit union in Harrisburg. She subpoenaed the records through a lawyer she knew. Took 2 weeks. The account had nearly $300,000 in deposits, mostly from tax refunds tied to those fake businesses. The withdrawals were worse. Wire transfers to offshore accounts in Belize and the Cayman Islands. But one withdrawal stood out, a cashier's check for $18,000 made out to a woman named Valerie Moretti. I'd never heard of her, but Janelle tracked her down. She lived in Scranton. Used to be married to Rick. They divorced 8 years ago. No kids. But she still spoke to him occasionally. He told her he was working on a startup and sometimes needed to use her name for business banking because he had bad credit. She had no idea what he was really doing. But she had something else, an old storage unit they'd shared, and she still paid the bill on it. It was in her name. Rick had abandoned it years ago. She gave us the key. We drove out there 2 days later. The storage unit was in a sketchy part of town. The manager didn't ask questions. We popped the lock and pulled the door open. Inside was a mess. Old file boxes, busted printers, empty soda cans, bags of shredded paper, and 2 cheap laptops. Janelle scanned everything. The laptops were password protected, but she took them. The real gold was in the boxes. He hadn't shredded everything. One file folder had copies of IDs, mine, Darren's, 2 cousins, and a woman I didn't know named Sabrina C. There were tax documents with our names, fake W-2s, fake business filings. He kept templates. Like it was a damn factory. We even found postmarked envelopes from a P.O. box in Bethlehem where he'd been receiving refund checks. He'd been running the scam under the radar for years. Janelle turned everything over to the lawyer and contacted a federal investigator she used to work with. I thought we were close to ending it, but that was the moment it all got worse. I was staying at my friend Evan's place since I couldn't afford rent. One night, I got home from a grocery run and found the door kicked in. The place was trashed. Drawers pulled out. My duffel bag dumped. My friend's TV smashed. Evan was out of town, thank God. Nothing else seemed stolen. Just wrecked. But sitting on the coffee table dead center was one thing. A printed photo of me and Janelle taken outside the Panera a few weeks back. Written in Sharpie across it, drop it. Or it gets worse. I stood there frozen. Every inch of me buzzing with fear. I called Janelle. She drove straight over. She looked at the photo and said he knows we're close. I asked her what we should do. She said we don't back down. But we do it smarter. That's when we started laying the trap. We knew Rick was still operating. We just didn't know how. Janelle put a trace on the P.O. box. She had one of her tech friends install a motion sensor camera nearby. She knew someone at the Bethlehem post office who was willing to keep an eye out. It took 9 days. On a rainy Thursday, she called me. He just picked up. Black hoodie, ball cap. Got the plate. He was driving a rental car. Under my name. Somehow he was still using my info. We reported it immediately, but more than that, we followed him. He didn't go home. He went to a warehouse outside Phillipsburg, just across the NJ state line. Janelle waited 2 hours, then pulled up out back. We saw him leave with a laptop bag and a thick envelope. She took photos, sent everything to the Investigator. That warehouse was the last piece we needed, or so we thought, because 2 nights later, someone broke into her office, took both laptops we found in the storage unit. The files? Gone. We'd hit a wall. But then Janelle remembered something. Something she'd forgotten. One of the cashier's checks Rick had deposited was drawn from a local bank, not an offshore account. That meant it had to be scanned. She called the bank. Her lawyer pushed hard. They found the scan. And on the back? A signature. Not Rick's. Mine. Except it wasn't mine. It was forged. And that meant we had forgery, bank fraud, and identity theft on a federal level. The game had changed. Now the feds were involved. Once the feds got involved, things started to move, but not fast enough. They opened an official case. I was assigned a contact in the financial crimes unit. He was polite, serious, but cagey. Told me not to talk to Rick, not to escalate. We need him to feel safe so he makes a mistake. But I was tired of playing safe. I was already broke, already out of work, already living like a fugitive for a crime I didn't commit. Janelle agreed if the system was slow, we'd go faster. We set up a trap. We used a burner phone to create a fake identity, someone offering tax services in an online freelancer forum Rick used to post on. He deleted most of his accounts, but Janelle found one in the archive of a tax scam forum under the handle FREL1NG$. She posted using the fake ID, looking to partner with someone for advanced refund strategies. Good with paperwork, need someone who can move funds quietly. Percent split negotiable. Took 3 days. We got a message. I'm listening. It was him. He was back online, trying to recruit. Over the next week, Janelle, posing as Monica, messaged with him. He was cautious, but greedy. He wanted bank account access, said he had experience with LLC structuring and could guarantee $15,000 per week. He sent a sample return. It used my name. Again. This time, the return had a new address listed, a drop house in Makunji. That's how Janelle found the new hideout. She watched it for 3 days. Rick came and went, always careful, always at night. She caught him burning something in the yard once. Paper. She filmed it all. Sent it to the FBI. But the real twist came from the people inside that house. It wasn't just Rick. There were 2 others, young guys, early 20s. One of them looked familiar. Janelle ran his plate. He was my cousin Ryan. That hit me like a truck. Ryan used to sleep on our couch after his mom died. My mom helped raise him. I gave him money for books in community college. And he was in it too. Janelle told me something I'll never forget. She said you weren't the only victim. You were the practice run. You were the test case because you trusted him most. It made sense. My return went in first. My accounts were clean. I had steady income. I looked good on paper. He'd used me to build the framework. Then he scaled it. And then another twist. I got a letter. Certified mail. Hand-signed. From the Pennsylvania Department of Revenue. It said I was being formally charged with filing fraudulent business taxes for 3 LLCs under my name. Pending investigation, I was also being reviewed for state tax fraud, which carried possible jail time. I stared at the letter for a full hour. Called Janelle. I said, "He's trying to destroy me." She said, "No. He's trying to bury you so he can keep using your name." I had to go public. I reached out to a local investigative reporter from the Morning Call newspaper. Someone who did stories on white-collar crime. I told him everything. He didn't believe me at first. Then I handed him Janelle's file. The photos. The forged forms. The video of Rick meeting Monica online. The bank docs. The signatures. The warehouse footage. The story dropped that Sunday. Front page. Allentown man targeted in family tax fraud ring, suspect still at large. It blew up. Got picked up on regional news. Then a Philly outlet ran with it. That's when everything started cracking. Rick's ex-wife Valerie called me again, shaken. She'd seen the story and realized he'd opened a credit card in her name too. Claimed she had $19,000 in business startup debt. She had no idea. Then my cousin Mia called. Same story. Rick had told her he was helping her optimize her taxes last year. She got a bill from the IRS for $11,000 in underpaid taxes. He'd screwed over everyone. But the last twist? The thing that made my blood turn cold? Janelle got a call from her contact at the credit union in Harrisburg. He told her someone came in asking about Keymark Holdings. Not to open an account. To close one. It wasn't Rick. It was a woman. Early 40s. Short blonde hair. Said she was the CFO of the company. She showed ID. It was me. Only it wasn't. Someone was impersonating me in person now. Someone was trying to scrub what Rick had built. This wasn't just a solo scam anymore. There were more people. And they were getting desperate. After the fake me tried to shut down the Keymark account, the feds knew Rick wasn't acting alone anymore. They called me in for another interview, this time with a full team, 2 IRS agents, 1 FBI financial crimes officer, and a prosecutor from the U.S. Attorney's Office in Philadelphia. Janelle came with me. She laid out everything. Photos, files, emails, fake IDs, voice recordings, the burner phone messages. All of it. They said I had done more investigative work in 3 months than their own department had done in a year. But there was a problem. They still didn't have enough to arrest Rick on federal charges. Not yet. Not unless they could catch him in the act with real cash, real documents, and clear evidence of his operation. That's when I made the decision that still keeps me up at night. I told them I'd wear a wire. They didn't like it. But eventually they agreed. So I called Rick. Blocked number. Used the same fake voice I'd used once to mess with a telemarketer. "Hey, it's Corey," I said. "I know what you're doing. I can help." There was a long pause. Then, "Who gave you my number?" I said, "Doesn't matter. I got access to some clean info. Want in or not?" Another pause. Then he said, "Meet me at the 6th Street underpass. Bring your laptop." They wired me up. Planted a tracker in a decoy laptop bag. Janelle sat 2 blocks away with eyes on everything. I pulled up under the overpass at 9:07 p.m. Rick was already there. Same hoodie. Same crooked smile. He looked me over. "You look familiar." I said, "I don't." He chuckled. "Let me guess. You're tired of playing small time. Want to learn the ropes?" I nodded. "I want to know how to make the real money." He looked around, lowered his voice. "It's simple. You find a clean ID. You build the shell. You file the paper. The IRS doesn't care unless someone complains." He pulled a folder out of his bag. "I got a new name. Some guy named Trevor. Got clean credit, clean record. You want in, you get 20% of the refund." I said, "I can do better than Trevor." He paused. "How?" I opened the laptop and pulled up my own name. "This guy's already in the system. Got his whole financials. Know the return history, address, banking. Everything." He leaned in. "You work with him?" I looked him dead in the eye and said, "You could say I'm related." That's when the feds moved in. Unmarked SUVs, floodlights, shouting, flashlights. Rick froze, dropped the folder, tried to run. Didn't get 5 steps. They slammed him into the ground, cuffed him, and read him his rights. "You've got the wrong guy," he screamed. I stepped forward, pulled off the wire, and said, "No. They don't." They raided the warehouse the next day. Inside, they found 4 laptops, 22 fake IDs, 4 burner phones, and $67,000 in cash hidden inside a portable AC unit. There was a whiteboard with my name still on it, underlined 3 times. Ryan, my cousin, was arrested at his apartment the same morning. He confessed almost immediately. Said Rick told him it was just a tax trick, that no one would get hurt. Ryan gave up everything. The fake IDs, the software they used, even the offshore contacts. Rick's ex-wife Valerie gave a full statement. So did Mia. So did the woman who impersonated me at the credit union. An old flame of Rick's who thought she was helping him move assets before an audit. She flipped too. Rick was charged with 17 federal counts: identity theft, wire fraud, bank fraud, mail fraud, tax fraud, and obstruction. He took a plea deal. 23 years in federal prison with no chance of parole until year 19. He cried in court. Said he'd never meant to hurt anyone. The judge didn't even blink. Ryan got 18 months. Reduced sentence for cooperating. The other 2 young guys? Probation. They were clueless. Used as pawns. Valerie avoided charges. So did the woman at the bank. She testified as witnesses. But I wasn't off the hook yet. The IRS cleared my name after 6 more weeks. They issued a public statement saying I was not involved and had been the primary victim in a multi-state identity theft and fraud conspiracy. They even issued me a restitution credit. My savings? Still gone. The money Rick took was long wired out. But the Department of Justice gave me $50,000 from a victim's compensation fund. Not everything I lost, but enough to restart. I got my job back, same role, same pay. My boss apologized in front of the whole team. Then I walked out 2 weeks later. I didn't want the job anymore. I wanted something else. So I joined Janelle. Not officially, she ran the business solo. But she brought me in as an assistant investigator on fraud cases. I learned how to trace people, track assets, pull LLC filings, read court documents. I found I had a knack for it. We handled 4 identity theft cases that year. Helped a woman get her father's stolen pension back. Helped a teacher prove someone used her SSN to rack up $88,000 in gambling debt. Each time, I felt a piece of myself come back. Rick called me once from prison. Blocked number. I answered without thinking. There was silence for a moment. Then he said, they offered me 10 years if I gave your name. I said, and? He laughed. Told them you were too dumb to be involved. I said, good. Because you were too dumb to pull it off alone. He said, you got me. Good job, kid. Then hung up. I haven't heard from him since. Sometimes I think about that night in my kitchen when he filed my taxes and ate the last slice of pizza. He looked me in the eye and said he was helping me. He was destroying me. But in the end, I got everything back. And he lost everything. Not because I'm smarter, but because I stopped trusting blood over truth. And because I finally learned not everyone in your family is on your side. And some of them, they only understand one thing: exposure.